Hello everyone. Hi, this is Shirley, live from Family Office Insider by Shirley. And today we have a very special person, Carol Pepper. Yeah, welcome, Dr. Pepper.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you.
Yes, I feel very honored because Carol has been a constant guest from Bloomberg channel on family office topics. So today in my humble studio here, and we could have her and to talk to our audience about her stories, how working with family offices. Thank
Beautiful. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be with you and to meet all of your wonderful followers from the other side of the planet. I love Singapore. I've been to China. I'm very honored to have a chance to speak with you and with your honored guests and your audience.
Thank you.
Well, for the last 24 years, I have had my business, which is called Pepper International, and I have been setting up family offices all over the world and acting as an external chief investment officer, so also helping with the finances of the family and helping the family transition the business from one generation to the next. I was very honored before that to work for the Rockefeller Family Office, where I managed over $1 billion. And I got to learn from one of the most famous families in the United States. That family is now in their 8th and 9th generations.
Yes.
And they have successfully gone from generation to generation. And there are very specific things that I was honored to learn from them about how you successfully move from a first generation mom and dad and maybe 1 or 2 children to 9 generations with many, many family members. And this is not magic. There are things you must do. There are disciplines you must embrace if you wish your family to successfully be still honored and have a good reputation hundreds of years from when you start.
100 years.
It's very, very doable, but it requires discipline. It requires good practices, and it requires taking it very seriously. The preparation of your children, the transitioning of your values from generation to generation, and the maintaining of the dignity of the family and the responsibility of the family and the reputation of the family, and then the health and happiness of the family members. All of those things are extremely important.
Yes, Carol, let's rewind back to you work for the Rockefeller family. And I actually appreciate that you actually stepped out and established your own business so you could help more families out there. With your wisdom and with your experience. And over the years, and then, right now where family office is a very, very hot topic in China, especially, as well as in Hong Kong and Singapore. We have seen these two places, these two destinations have been fighting, competing to be the ultimate Asian destination to set family offices. Let's go back to Family Office 101. Okay, let's say if you have a client, an Asian client, coming in front of you, say, hey, I would like to have a family office. What would you tell him or would you tell her?
Yes, the first thing I would say is, do you really need a family office? Why do you want a family office? And I would say, if you are interested in multi-generational wealth, meaning you would like your wealth not just for you and your wife and maybe your children, but you would like your wealth to last many generations, then you should seriously consider setting up a family office, because the family office looks at the health and financial wealth and all the affairs of the family and how to go from where you are today into the future. So if you're interested in perpetuating what you have created for many generations going forward, then you should seriously consider investing in a family office, because it is about teaching yourself and your children and your grandchildren and those generations you will never be alive to meet how to successfully work together as a group, be happier, be healthier, be more appreciative of what they have, and how to make it into the future. For example, when the Rockefeller family started, it was one man, John D. Rockefeller. He came from a poor background. His family had no money. And yet, from the very first paycheck, for example, that he earned, he put 10% of his money into charity. And he always not only took care of himself and his family, but he always thought of the world and was very generous and very charitable. Now, there have been studies that show other families that were equally famous and starting from nothing around that time in the 1800s in the United States.
Yeah,
those that did the charity work, those that cared for others, those that were very careful about spending their money and writing down what they spent and tracking everything, those were the families that became very successful 100 and 200 years later. Whereas the families that were not as thoughtful, not as disciplined as he was, and didn't set a good example, they are no longer successful today. Their descendants may have a famous name, but the family does not have money.
You are right. A lot of them only carries a name. And we actually have a saying in Chinese, it's like 富不过三代. The wealth does not pass down over 3 generations.
Yeah.
So actually, by even thinking about the family office, having a family office, the necessity is because you want your wealth and your legacy to pass down. I actually have a lot of questions from my client that I face. They will say, so what is the wealth level that is needed to set up a family office?
Well, I think the wealth level in the United States, for example, I know people that have as little as $10 million, which is very small money nowadays, setting up a family office. Why? Because they want that 10 to become 100, and they want that 100 to become $1 billion. So how do you go in big leaps?
Yes.
You start from a basis of thinking that I'm already in the big house.
I'm already there.
Yes, I'm already there. I want to be a family that has $1 billion someday.
Great.
I'm going to develop the habits when I have $10 million to be the family that can hold $1 billion. Because if you think about it, the same when you're preparing your children.
Yes.
If you have a business, and let's say your business is worth 300 million and your children are small, by the time, if you do a good job, that you are 20 years from now and your child is ready to start learning, that business could be $1 billion.
Oh, yes.
So you must prepare your child from when he or she is small to be ready to receive that big business. And that means, for example, with the Rockefeller family, I don't know if you have this tradition in China, but in the States, when a child loses the tooth, they get a little coin from the fairy, the tooth fairy. I don't know. You call the tooth fairy? So with the Rockefeller family, those children always, when they received money, it was for savings, spending, and charity. So let's say you got 25 cents for your tooth. You can give them 1 quarter, or you could give them 2 nickels and a dime.
2 nickels and a dime.
Give them, break it up so that some of it's going to charity, some of it's going to spending, and some of it's going to savings. So we call it having 3 piggy banks.
Yes.
3 banks to put the money in. Why? Then the child's brain, even from the very first money they receive, is now being trained that you always divide the money. You don't spend everything.
Yeah.
You don't spend every dime. You save some, you help the world with some, and then you spend some.
That is
so that is something anybody can teach their child. You don't need to be wealthy. You need to be disciplined. And if you're showing the same behavior that you want your child to have, he is more likely or she is more likely to follow that behavior, because it's not what mommy or daddy says, it's what they do.
It's habitual. It becomes habitual of how to treat money. To have the right attitude with money. So it's actually the mindset. It's not only the barrier of entry. Can be as low as 10 mil in the United States. And then, also this applies to a lot of families in Asia. And, we can all start thinking in the mindset, I'm already there. And then even my children are little, but, I need to prepare them for the future and then for their future generation. Some of my clients, let me tell you, some of my clients will be like, I already have my private bankers. I have everything taken care of. Why would I need a family office on my own?
That's a very good question. Your private banker, first of all.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with, I was a private banker for many years before I worked for the Rockefeller Family Office. I have great respect for private bankers, but they are really there to earn money from you for their bank. They are there to sell you financial products and hopefully give you good advice.
Yes.
But you need to learn how to take advice. Okay? It's one thing if somebody's giving you advice, but is it the right advice for you and for your family? So I always tell people, even when your children are young teenagers, take them to the meetings with the private banker.
Take them to the
Let them listen to you interacting with an advisor. Because with the family office is there to help you get the best out of your advisors and not be tricked. Because remember, the bank always needs to make money for the bank.
Oh, yes.
So,
yes.
For example, during the financial crisis in 2008, many families, private bankers said to them, don't worry, keep your money in the stocks, everything will be fine. Because they would lose money if the money was not invested.
Of course, the fees.
Many family offices were saying, sell the investments early on before things got terribly bad and keep the money in cash. The people that followed their own intuition, not the private bankers, had the cash. So when the big crashing came in the market, they could go in and buy cheap. The guys who stayed with the private banker kept making money and they lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So there is an importance as your money gets bigger and bigger. You nowadays it's very important to learn to work with advisors and to teach your children that as your fortune grows, you have more, perhaps you have real estate advisors, perhaps you have 4 or 5 private bankers, perhaps you have lawyers, insurance advisors, estate planners. All of these different experts must be managed. Somebody needs to integrate all the advice. So it's like when you build a big building, the plumber tells you one thing, the electrician tells you something, the decorator tells you something else, but somebody has to hold the entire vision of where the family is going. You don't need to tell the plumber your ultimate plan for the building, but you need to know what it is so you know how to work with the plumber or the electrician. It's the same with the family office. It's because the money becomes quite complicated. You might have it in multiple countries for multiple generations, different types of companies that you own, different industries that you're in. All of this must be coordinated. So that is what the family office is there for. It's to be the brain of the family, where all the expertise and opinions are gathered so that the family can then make good decisions on what they would like to do.
Yeah, actually, that is a great metaphor about a building versus a plumber. Because I've seen a lot of Gen 1 still very active in the business. However, they're not financial experts, right? So you make the money, you make the pot of gold. What do you do with that? And so maybe you would like to have a dedicated group of professionals or a single contacting point, one single FO that help you to make those important investment decisions.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily in your industry, maybe in other industries, and maybe, with a different portfolio options. But overall, I think, a lot of principals, they might considering having family office professionals taking care of the family offices.
Definitely. Yes. And I think also remember what you're doing today is not going to necessarily be what you're doing 100 years from now, your family is doing.
Yes.
But the principles can be the same.
Yes.
And for example, the family that started Kikkoman soy sauce is now in their 17th generation in Japan.
17.
Yes.
Wow.
And they still have the same family constitution because it has very timeless principles that they can follow. But the markets that they're selling their products in, the way that they communicate with their customers has, of course, changed tremendously from when they started their business.
Of course.
And it will be the same for us. We don't know, for example, what artificial intelligence will be doing 50 years from now or even 10 years from now compared to today. But we still know the human principles of honesty, integrity, caring, respect, learning from others, tolerance. These universal principles must guide the family if the family is going to succeed. Where there are no guiding ethical principles, universal principles, Confucian principles actually of order and discipline, where you don't have those principles, you have chaos and families do not make it past 3 generations. And it's just true.
Yeah, and there's no map, there's no blueprint, and there's no rules to follow that we see creates a lot of confusions. Yes. And I think that you just mentioned about family principles. Give us a good example of the set of family principles that you work with that still remain very successful.
Yes. Well, for example, you can create, and most families do, something called a family constitution. And you start making the family constitution by looking at what are the values that actually describe what's important to your family. So I had the privilege to work with a family, and surprisingly, one of their top principles was how to change. Now, this family over 100 years had gone into 4 completely different industries.
Wow.
They started in cement making.
Cement.
Then they went to printmaking. Then they went to telecommunications. Now they were going into artificial intelligence. So every 25 years or so, they would see things that were changing that they needed to change. So they weren't afraid of change, but they were able to master knowing when to change, when to stay the same. So the principle of being able to change successfully and evolve became a family value. Think about what a great family value that is nowadays.
Yeah.
How often do we really teach our children how to change, how to recognize when it's time to change, and how to make a change successfully? What are the steps of change? How do we go from certainty in one area, then maybe a confusing time where we think we must change, then a reorganizing time, and then a new area of certainty, for example.
Yes.
So that's an example of a value that you can actually build into your family constitution to allow your family to successfully navigate what's happening in the world.
Yes, and this is a very important message for those Gen 1 because of the rapid changes in economic dynamic happened in Asia as well as in China. We know, all we know from the late 70s to now what happened. And a lot of wealth were made. However, I think we're going so fast, we did not really have time to reflect on the constitutionals, on the principles, and on the continuity of the family wealth has been created over the last 40 years. So now probably it's a time to pause and to reflect and then to plan. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, it's a pleasure.